Taurus, first house action. So this is between the first and the seventh houses. So that's you, who you are, Taurus rising, and other people. Have other people been blocking out your own identity? Is there been this shift, this emerging shift or change in your identity that you've been feeling this pull towards? Even rebellion. Have you been rebelling and changing the way you look in your wardrobe to reflect that change? And have you been noticing this conflict between, or even have you felt that in the, maybe even now, that other people have maybe eclipsed your own psychology needs, body needs, or appearance? Has there been some sort of shadowing that has come your physical body right now as well, because it's so intimate to your body? Noticing if there is, if you do need some time and a break. Um, and other people also are spouses. There are open enemies at times, business partners. Um, those elements and are at play here. So an increasing of change and a decreasing, or even an announcement that may be coming from a business partner or spouse, or even Venusian characters at this time. Uh, are there shifts that are happening? And there's also this retrograde that's happening in your second house, which again is voice involved. Is there this going over, going backwards, shifts and changes again with your intake of foods and changes and or even conflict or uncertainty about those the intake of foods, because again this is the Mars ruled um, lunation cycle.
Mhm.
Tabitha, do you have any
Yeah, what's coming to me
intuition about this?
intuitively, just looking at this and as you're speaking, just intuitively, I'm just getting protection. And, maybe also because of those relationships, we can get bombarded with energies at work or, in various relationships. So, again, there are several stones that are great for protection, but what just came to me were black moonstone and black kyanite. And also in terms of flower essences, and we can go into that. That's a whole topic if you're not familiar with, but it's programming water with the energy of a plant. So I'm just going to give that brief description now, and we can go into it more at another time. But yarrow, or anything that includes yarrow. So Flower Essence Society has a blend called environmental protection blend or something along those lines. But yarrow, even yarrow flower essence on its own, or another flower essence company, Lotus Way, they sell a blend called Radiant Energy, which contains yarrow. And I believe several of their blends contain yarrow. But yarrow is a plant that's really great for protection. And if you're new to flower essences and what I'm saying sounds kind of foreign to you, you can also work with the plant energy in other ways, be it tea, be it working with high quality pictures of the plant, bringing that plant into your meditations. There are different ways to work with that energy, but yarrow, black moonstone, and black kyanite is what just came to me immediately in terms of protecting from maybe some of those outside energies.
Absolutely, especially because when an eclipse, a lunar eclipse happens, the face of the moon is blocked. Slowly begins to turn this color of red, and then the face is completely darkened. And it is a phenomena. There are ancient ways that this has been talked about, and or it's very troublesome, like to have the even the sun's face be blocked out. And then again
Mhm.
for the moon, so it is described as malefic of sorts. So
Mhm, and
in,
I for some reason, I was getting that very strongly.
yes,
And other things, even something as simple as a daily clearing meditation and a protective meditation in the morning and then a clearing meditation in the evening, because clearing and protecting go hand in hand. Um, and then even, like a great thing that you can do is a salt bath. So taking like 2 to 4 cups of Epsom salt into your bath water. And you can add things to that. You can add plant materials, rose petals. Roses also, they're very protective. If you think of the actual when we talk about doctrine of signatures, which is like the plant tells you, what it's good for, you have the rose and the affinity for the heart and the heart opening, all of that. But then roses have thorns, they know how to protect themselves. So, adding rose petals to that, adding essential oils, I would say, please know what you're doing, from a safety standpoint. If you're not used to working with essential oils, maybe avoid that. But if you're familiar with essential oils, taking essential oils that are safe for the skin and putting them either in a little bit of olive oil or a little bit of milk, and then adding those into your Epsom salt soak. You want to put the oils in something containing fat, because essential oils are lipid loving. And if they don't have something to bind to, they will bind to your skin and it can cause burning and irritation. And you don't want to find that out the hard way. So,
yes,
but those are things that you can add, just various dried plant material. It doesn't have to be rose petals. It could be lavender. It could be anything you want it to be, basil, whatever you feel called to add to have that relaxing bath experience. But then soaking for about 20 minutes, drinking lots of water afterward. But that will clear and detoxify you on an energetic level as well as on a physical level. So it's great for mind, body, and spirit.
yes, I love that because again, we're working with that Scorpio element and we're using that one to help and
Yes.
assist with that. And
Yeah.
these energies, they come like right now, we're not in a new moon, we're not in a full moon phase. We're kind of at this like building up phase as it is right now on Halloween.
Mhm.
The
And
day
visualization is
before,
so,
the sorry,
your
what was that?
sound cut out on my end for a second. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, no, it's all good. I was just saying that the the moon's light going dark, going red and then dark, on the place where your physical body is. Like, I'm so happy that you intuitively spoke to protection because is there
Mhm.
some sort of announcement from others and people like opposite you that is shadowing and maybe overshadowing that need that you may have on those days of feeling this pressure?
Mhm.
Because when the full moons happen, the water, the water in our system, does it not move up when the full moon happens
It
because
does.
the
It
change
does.
in
Yeah,
gravity?
we're approximately 60% water. So if you think about the effects that the moon has on the ocean tides, has a similar effect on us.
Yes, and I'm so happy that we have different modalities that we have to speak of because maybe on the 7th or the 6th you start feeling pressure. Your body starts to feel something and that how that affects your mental body and these Scorpio themes and these Taurus themes. Your chart ruler is in its exile right now. She's far far away from home and it can't be seen. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of personal and physical and mental elements that are very, very intimate to who you are that are happening at this time. And so rest and rest when you need to. And, if you need to have an extra day off or if you can, that it may benefit you for the rest of the cycle. and to
Right.
contemplate and to stay close to home if you need to, or do those extra self-care things and say no. And Mars is going retrograde. There may be uh that impulse naturally because he's going to be there for months until
Yeah.
next March. So the
And
planet of will and force and movement forward is going backwards, going over things. What was that? What were you saying?
I was going to say, trust your intuition. So if you get, a thought that just kind of sparks into your head, or you have a feeling, or you keep thinking about the same thing over and over, just going back to the bath, for example, like if you felt called to put orange slices or orange slices or something like that, like you can really, intention is so powerful, and just go into it with like the intention of like, this is a Venus bath, like this is going to be very like beautiful and like recharging like that energy, or going into it of like connecting the idea of like the water back to Scorpio and those emotional waters and depths, or you're just putting intention into this bath, and even to the point when like you let the water drain and you're like stepping out to just really like visualize all that no longer serves you, like literally going down the drain, because our thoughts have energy behind them.
Yes, especially if you have a difficult time shutting down and taking time for yourself, especially during this lunation cycle. The planets themselves are called grabbers in Vedic text. Those streams of thoughts, those radio waves are shifting and changing. And if you have a moment on November 8th for 20 minutes to give yourself, and to use some of these plant energies that we're talking about, especially for Taurus and for Scorpio rising, during this eclipse, please treat yourself to indulge and just to give yourself some protection, to
Mhm.
maybe just be all about you for a minute. How
So
about an oracle deck? Do
I
you
just
have
want to add
one?
a couple more things
Oh,
before I pull a
sure.
card. Because something that you said reminded me of magic.
Oh,
And
yes.
so I just want to just kind of put it out there. You don't want to set an intention or work with magic during an eclipse, because it can just go very much awry. And the other thing I wanted to mention for people who may, again, be kind of new to this, if you don't know what your ascendant is, what your rising sign is, so the rising sign and the ascendant are the same thing, but if you don't know what your personal sign is, you can go to astro.com. It's a free database. It's a secure database. I think the company's based in the Netherlands, and so they fall under the GDRP privacy policies, which are very strict. So any information that you put into the site, your name, your date of birth, your time of birth, is all kept extremely private. They're not going to sell your information or anything like that. But you can go to this website, astro.com, short for Astrodienst, and you can generate a chart. So you'll have something that looks similar to this, but based on your time of birth. And then you'll be able to find, most people know their sun sign, but your moon sign, your ascendant, and the placement of all of your planets. And if you want to get fancy, you can even look up placements of asteroids and planetary bodies and all kinds of things. So
Oh, I love that you
and
mentioned
what we're
that.
doing, what we're looking at are whole sign charts. So that's another thing, that if you go to the extended chart selection, you can select whole sign charts.
Absolutely. And you can always ask us any question regarding those elements, and we can put that in the description for you as well.
Since Taurus is an earth sign and it's, very grounded, I'm going to go with the Earth Magic deck.
Oh, yes.
See what we come up with. This is by Stephen A. Farmer. Got a little shuffle here. Sorry if it looks like I'm looking off to the side at times. My camera and my screen are not aligned. So sometimes when I'm looking at Callie, it looks like I'm looking off.
Well,
side.
sometimes we're interacting with spirit as well, which means that sometimes the eyes, are not involved. So
Right, right, right. All right. I think this is our. Oh, interesting. So, Kelly, maybe you can shed some light on this in terms of the astrology. Well, actually, it makes sense. It does make sense because I was just talking about protecting yourself from energies from these other people, be it business partners, friendships, romantic relationships. So it's starting to make sense for me. So maybe it'll make sense for you too, Kelly. I pulled the volcano card, which is all about volatility.
Oh, interesting.
So I feel like this volatility is like volatile energy coming toward you from one
Ah,
of these other people, and especially with like the whole eclipse, like unpredictable energy. Like that's kind of where my mind is going with this. Like, is this card bringing up anything else for you, Callie?
yes. Well, I'm seeing like Pluto as being volcanic. So people that
Hmm.
have Pluto in Scorpio, or even, Pluto in Taurus, if there's anybody out there that has that, there's maybe some sort of volatile energy with this Cazimi, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
that could be communicating. And again, there is a hard line between Mars and Mercury at this time.
You know what else
So,
it reminds me of, and you can maybe speak to this because sometimes when I look at these charts, I get overwhelmed. But it reminds me of Uranus, of like that swift, sudden, unexpected change.
yes.
So I don't know where Uranus. I'm not picking it out.
Uranus is in Taurus in the first house for our Taurus rising.
Oh, I see it now. I see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, with that Uranus energy being kind of unpredictable, um, you know. So if there were something to happen in the first house that's kind of unpredictable, the first house kind of being the house of self, like how would that what could that look like? Because we know it can have various expressions, but what could that look like?
Well, what that could look like is, well, it's the planet of rebellion and sudden change. So sudden changes in the physical body could be something to do with the voice. It could be the sudden loss of your
Mhm.
voice, or the blocking out of the voice by other people. Uranus in the first house, people that I've noticed, can be irreverent. So maybe there is something that you've been wanting to say, but maybe there you've been overpowered by others, and that has been blocked out. And there's also Uranian influences in the first house
Mhm.
people. The way that they dress may change dramatically, and maybe that is an act of rebellion itself.
Well, you know what that reminds me of too? And I actually had this happen to me a few years ago during a Mercury retrograde with someone who had a sun sign in Taurus. I don't know about her other placements, but she like did not speak her mind. And then during this retrograde, she exploded. So it could be if there is something with the voice, and you're not you haven't been communicating for whatever reason, like either you didn't feel you could, or you didn't know how, or some other issue impacting the voice, that one of these, because I keep going back to these relationships, that
Yes.
something one of these people say could cause you to erupt or explode like this volcano.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, I can definitely see, yes, the volcano, the coming up. I can definitely see that.
So what I would say, now that you're aware of this energy, is if you want to avoid something of that magnitude, would be to figure out what it is that you haven't been saying and how you could say it, to avoid like an explosive situation.
Yeah, and this Kazemi energy, like maybe journaling and giving that a chance to write or communicate it out in some way, because there may be an urge to express it. And maybe the
Mhm.
things that you have coming out, maybe you don't want anyone to see, but maybe it just needs to come out.
Well, and this actually, so here we go. we're just kind of riffing here. This reminds me of another flower essence blend. So there are several companies out there that sell flower essences, but the one I'm thinking of in particular, this blend is from a company called Lotus Way, and it's the Inner Peace blend. It has an affinity for the throat, but beyond that, it also helps to kind of calm the insides. So that would be something, to consider as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like it's giving you that quiet strength at the same time that it's giving you the power to speak up.
Yes, and one thing that I neglected to mention is that Saturn and Uranus have been going in and out of this square since the pandemic, essentially, or since midpoint in the pandemic. And this is kind of that final pass where the square is doing its final point. And so we have some 10th house Saturn influences. So again, this is like career house. So there's other people, and then there's this career energy. If there's some sage like energy that's now moving forward or even stepping into, and also taking advantage of this next month and a bit where Jupiter has put himself in the place of his joy in the 11th house. So really digging into the roots of community and resources and friends and good spirit. If you're getting a lot of heat or being
Mhm.
eclipsed by other people, and just leaning into the good spirit of friends, because it's the most beautiful place for Jupiter for all of the signs at this point, besides Pisces, backing into the first house. So if there's any elements of Jupiterian leaders and community that um, you can have an ear with, or maybe new friends, uh, or
Mhm.
even music, because the Pisces energy could also be a beautiful way to um, help you through this eclipse energy as well. I love the power of sound, as a
Yes.
musician, and how calming that can be for the vocal cords, and for even for to soften um, the sexual organs, because
Mhm.
there's uh, maybe women at this point in time during the full moon that are on their periods at this time, moon women that may be feeling this intensity just because they're on that point in their cycle. So
Let
just
me
linking
ask you
to
this.
that.
I'm sorry.
No, that was done.
I was going to say with Taurus, what am I talking about? With Saturn in the 10th house, the career house, could that represent some sort of constriction in that area?
I would say yes, because he's been moving backwards and he just recently started moving forward. He hasn't moved out of his shadow yet.
Hmm.
However, that is sort of like casting a shadow down, and it's what's called a superior square to the ascendant. So this probably, I don't know, less just
Hmm.
shy of 2 years that Saturn has been in the 10th, could mean many things, like extra pressure from a boss, or maybe stepping
Yeah.
into this more Saturn like, sage like return of sorts of energy. So there has been a lot of pressure for Taurus with this Saturn energy on the 10th
Hmm.
house with this superior square.
And that's what I'm thinking, going back to these, work and business and office relationships, and that volcano, that whole kind
Yeah.
of situation of maybe like something that's been brewing for the last couple of years and you're just like, you're done, like you're ready to pop.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's
yeah.
interesting that you say that, because when Jupiter went into Pisces and there was this energy like mingling with Neptune again, I was almost at this point of like just expressing things that like they weren't even true. It was almost like I was speaking not in tongues, but
Mhm.
it was just like word vomit that just like was like blah, 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 and I was like, I don't even believe this as it's coming out, but there was something about it that felt like I was purging out, and they were just words, and it wasn't even directed at anything. It was just this like, wow, there's this bigness, there's this big energy that's interacting with this Neptunian like haze that's happening. So I mean there is a shadow and a dark side to all of these elements. There's
Right.
like a shadow and light side to even the darkening of the dark of Scorpio. So we're not here to like totally like to bash or give any kind of stereotypes to Scorpio because I love
Mhm.
Scorpio energy. There's such a this is one of my favorite times of the year. So yeah,
Yeah, there's light and shadow to everything.
absolutely.
That divine expression, and then there's that, what's the word? Can't think of it, but essentially like that shadow side expression of it.
Yes, absolutely. And Pluto is moving direct again as well. So it's a lot of shifts that are happening. So, yeah, I think I'm going to move ahead to Gemini. And you gave a card for Taurus, the
Yeah,
volcano.
the
Love
volcano.
it.
Mhm.
All right. So we're going to move on to